Yo, Charles back again, my boy. Man, hey, you put in the work with me, man. I appreciate you, bro. How you doing?
Nah, love being on. Always a good time, good vibes for sure, and a lot of stuff going on. So it's worth talking about.
Yeah, man. I mean, I could just speak for us too. We love talking about sports, and hopefully one day we making freaking that bank that we could freaking, go
Yeah.
travel. We could vacation like 6 times a year, bro.
Man,
That's
I
the
think
dream, bro.
that will be at the games.
Yeah,
Coverage,
right,
daily
right.
coverage at the games. Yeah,
Exactly. On our own shows. Forget all
that'd be
those.
great. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, man. Well, guys, welcome to another episode of the G Perspective. I got my dog Charles in the fucking mix right here, CL Kid. We're gonna be talking about a lot of NBA free agency. We got some NFL trades that have went down in the past week and even today. But a lot of the talk is gonna be the NBA free agency. But before we get into it, please do not forget to like and subscribe. Please share the show. We really appreciate the love and support. Go to YouTube, subscribe there. Go to TikTok, go to Instagram, go to Twitter. Follow us there. Follow our accounts. Show a little bit more love and support, man. We really appreciate it. And then if you guys are into sports gambling, I run a Telegram channel where we offer sports gambling slips daily to get you winning from $20 to $50 to $100 a day. It's just $10 a month. So if you see my social media links pop up on the screen, just slide into my DMs and we'll get a conversation to see what's good, baby. But let's jump right into this, man, because we got a lot of NBA free agency talk, bro. And I wanted to start off with the Houston Rockets, man, because in my opinion, bro, I feel like they're winning NBA free agency, man. But you can give me your opinion on what you think about that. But just to list off of what they've done so far, they traded for Kevin Durant. If you guys do not know, a few weeks ago they traded for Kevin Durant. They let go of Jalen Green. They let go of Dylan Brooks and some picks, right? They re-signed Fred VanVleet. They re-signed Jabari Smith Jr. and Steven Adams. Great re-signs right there. Big time role players for the Houston Rockets on why they finished second seed in the Western Conference. Then they just recently signed Dorian Finney-Smith Jr., a good 3-and-D player. And they brought back Clint Capella, who's a great backup center. They're going to have 3 big men out there that can actually grab boards and score at will with just about anybody. With all that being said, Charles, what do you think about the NBA free agency so far for the Houston Rockets?
I think they've done a lot of great things. I wouldn't say they overpaid for Jabari Smith. They had the cap space to do it, and they obviously had to make a move with the money. So I'm good with that. I do still think, as I mentioned before, I think Jalen Green would have been a better person to hang on to than Jabari Smith. Not just because I think he's a better player. I know that would probably clash a little bit with KD being there and stuff like that. But overall, I just think because of KD's age, I would have, if I was Houston, I would have hung on to Green because once KD leaves, you'll still be in a position to build around him with this same setup you have going on with Capella, with guys like that. Whereas once KD leaves now, you'll need that centerpiece. And I don't think Jabari Smith is a centerpiece type player. But either way, considering most teams that add KD or aging veteran players kind of just throw the guy there like Phoenix did, and they just hope that that's going to be enough. Maybe have 2 or 3 star players and no bench, no depth. But a lot of credit to Houston, because they're actually building an appropriate style team around KD right now. This is the first time he's had that. Even when he went to Brooklyn, you had the other star players, but the rest of the roster, even though they looked very good, prior to that when nobody was playing and a lot of that team was banged up, the bench and just the rest of those misfit type players were keeping them in the playoff hunt anyway. I just didn't think that fit together as a true style team, whereas Houston right now looks that, and they have great coaching. So, I still would, put Denver a step ahead of them, but overall, if you're a Rockets fan, you're ready for the season.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I love the fact that they traded for Kevin Durant. I feel like that was a good move for them. Obviously, they needed a star over there that actually going to give them more buckets, day in and day out, game in and game out. I think it was a good signing for them. Bringing back Fred VanVleet, I think he could run the floor very well. He's a great playmaker. Jabari Smith Jr. Is the reason why I think that they wanted to let go of Jalen Green. Yes, Jalen Green is an all-star caliber player, in my opinion. But Jabari Smith Jr. can be that player too. Remember, he was almost selected number one by the Orlando Magic, but that day of the draft, they decided to go with Pablo Banchero, which was a great pickup for them for sure. I think he is better than Jabari Smith Jr., but I think Jabari Smith Jr. has a lot of potential to be a Kevin Durant type player. Yes, he's maybe not as versatile when it comes to his dribbling and crossovers and all that, but he has a great shot. He's 6'10. He's younger. He can learn from KD. He can learn what KD has done throughout his whole career and maybe try to turn into a scoring threat just as KD was throughout the whole NBA career of his. Steven Adams is another one that I really like as well. I think he shows a lot of grit, shows a lot of force. You know, he shows a lot of intensity out there when it comes to playing defense, when it comes to grabbing boards, when it comes to setting picks as well. When Fred VanVleet comes off the pick, sometimes he's wide open for the three. He could just drive down the lane and get an easy layup. Signing Dorian Finney-Smith Jr. I always butcher his name. Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, right. You gotta. It's like a. You gotta say it fast when you say that. Dorian Finney-Smith. God damn.
There you go.
I think it was.
We'll count that.
Yeah, right. I think it was a good signing for them. In the fact of that he can cover. When it comes to a small forward or power forward, their best opposing small forward, power forward. He could go and run down the lane and pop up on the corner for a three or at the wing for a three. Yeah, he'll maybe only give you maybe what, like 9 points per game. Hopefully, he could give you more than that. That'll be great for Houston. So it's not like an amazing pickup. Yeah, they probably did overpay for him, but I think it was a good signing for them. I do love the fact that they brought back Clint Capella. I think they could do a lot of damage with Capella, especially coming off the screens, throwing alleys to him and whatnot. But he could grab a lot of boards. He could easily go from 12 to 15 boards per game, which that would be great for Houston in the long run. So at the end of the day, I think Houston, in my opinion, has won free agency so far with the trade of Kevin Durant, signing those 3 role players, and then signing the 2 new players. I think it's going to be a good look for Houston. I think they're going to jump. You know, yeah, they finished second seed, but a lot of people throughout the playoffs really didn't think that they were going to get anywhere. They showed that they didn't get anywhere. And with all of these additions, I think they can make it to the second round and maybe the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Like I said, I just feel since the league is so young and balanced right now, I probably would have just stayed the course. But I can't blame them. And, not to say that they're impatient or anything like that, because it's been a long time for Houston. Not just the Olajuwon years, but even when they tried the T-Mac Yao Ming thing, had some injuries there. Steve Francis before that had some injuries there. So they haven't really been over the top team. And obviously the Chris Paul injury as well, with the war against Warriors and stuff like that hurt. But this is their first chance to go into a season where they can consider themselves a true NBA title contender, even with how balanced the West is. So I hear it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the Houston Rockets could do. They're projected right now. They jumped from, I think it was like plus 2,000 to get to the NBA Finals to now it's like probably plus 500. So
yeah,
it's good odds for them. Say it again.
Are they the top 3 right now?
Yeah, they're in top 3 right now.
Top 5. I mean, the top 3 now.
Yeah, and top 3 in the Western Conference to actually make it to the NBA Finals. Number 1, of course, being OKC. You're not going to move that rank. Number 2 for them is probably, I think it was the Denver Nuggets. And, we're going to jump into the Denver Nuggets now because they have made some crazy moves too, some good moves for their squad. They traded for Cam Johnson. They traded away Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. In my opinion, is kind of like the same guy in a sense, maybe a little bit younger. Traded for Jonas Valanciunas. I think that's a great backup center for them. And then signed Tim Hardaway Jr. and Bruce Brown. With those signings right there, I know, in your opinion, you think that they're number 1 in NBA free agency so far. And we just want to know, why is that?
Well, I mean, you can look at Houston, for example, like you said, and the players they brought in, obviously KD, the best player amongst all these players and stuff like that. But I think for what that team needed, this is just such a good rebuild in a quick way. I like Michael Porter Jr., but he clearly took a step back with the injuries and things like that. I'm not saying his career is over. He could easily go right back to his value he was the year before, but he was slowing them down. And I know they had the injury to Murray half the year on off and stuff like that. So that was another thing. And then the coaching change going into the last week of the season. And they still, went to game 7 with OKC. And if Gordon wasn't hurt, not to say that, he did play, but it was clear he was limited by that. I'm not saying they were going to win, kind of like the Halliburton thing, but at the end of the day, who knows, right? So I do think going back to Bruce Brown, the guy that should have never let go, because I don't think Braun, you know, who's there now, brings enough defense, physicality wise. I just like all these pickups. Like Valanciunas is a great backup center. He could start on most teams. I think Bruce Brown adds his minutes, like I just said, for 3 and D. Cam Johnson is a more consistent shooter than what you were getting at the moment from Michael Porter. And you don't need him to also be a super influential defensive player since you still have Aaron Gordon. Tim Hardaway, probably the most streakiest player in the last 20 years, but still another low lightning bug type player they can bring off the bench. I just don't think this was a team that needed all that much, and yet they made 4 pretty good signings or moves, let's call it. So I like that. If they would have made just 2 of those moves, I would have been like, oh, it's pretty good, But to go 4 and really shore up the bench around Jokic there is going to help a lot. And I don't know. They did more than I thought they would do. So it's a surprising, nice, good thing. So I have them up top right now because I like the final product there right now today more than I like Houston today. But who knows? We got a whole season to work together, so we'll see.
So for me, the big thing for me with these 2 trades and these 2 signings, is what you mentioned when it comes to the bench. I feel like that's a problem that they really had last season. They didn't really have a consistent bench that can help them score, that can help them play make, or even play defense. Right? You bring in Jonas Valanciunas, he's going to play some defense. Some people are going to try to drive to the rim and dunk or lay it up, and he's going to have that rim protection there, and he's going to be able to get those boards, and teams are not going to get a lot of second chance points as much as they were last season against the Nuggets. Trading for Cam Johnson, I think it's a little bit more of an upgrade than MPJ just because of the fact MPJ is a little bit more injury prone, in my opinion. And when you see him play, if he's not really in tune in the game or he's not really having a good game, he starts to lack off and he starts to not play as hard with so much effort as he is when he's having a great shooting night and he's grabbing all the boards and he's dunking on people and whatnot. With Cam Johnson, when you watch him play, I don't really see him quit at any moment in part of the game. If he's in the game, he's giving you 110%, and he can shoot the 3 ball just as well as MPJ. Maybe MPJ is a little bit better at shooting the 3, but he can still shoot the ball. And I like the way that he plays defense. He plays with tenacity and grit, and he's all over the floor. No matter what, he's going to give you 110% effort, and I really like that from Cam Johnson. I think that was a good trade for them. Signing Tim Hardaway Jr. and PJ gets shot out the door, so the 3-point goes down, but they bring in Cam Johnson, obviously, and now another shooter, Tim Hardaway Jr., that he can put up 2, 3-pointers a game, which is great for their offense. Spread the floor a little bit more where you got Jokic on the floor. You got Jamal Murray doing his thing and trying to get with the pick and roll and all that. You bring back Bruce Brown, and he's a part of that championship team, and he was doing work off the bench. He was actually being the playmaker all over the floor. He was being the facilitator. He was driving in when he needed to. He was showing that he can score. He can grab boards. Sometimes he was even dropping triple doubles. If you look at the stats of when that championship year that they had. So I think bringing in Bruce Brown, signing in Tim Hardaway Jr. and trading for those 2 other players, I think it was good moves for the Nuggets as well. I got them second behind Houston in NBA free agency so far, but like you said, it's a whole season. You got to see how they play together. But I think just for the Denver Nuggets, for sure, the good moves.
Yeah, and Cam Johnson was actually one of the top 3-point percentage shooters last season, and that was on a team that had nobody there. So the shots he was getting in Brooklyn were probably not poor quality shots, but more heavily defended. You're not helping over to other guys on that team since they're pretty bare overall on the roster. So the shots he was going to get in Denver with Jokic passing, and you're worrying about Murray off the screens, and whether it's Braun or Brown as the opposite side of the wing, he's going to get way better looks. So I like them. I already like them overall, but I hear you on Houston too.
Yeah. The next thing I wanted to talk about, man, was with Milwaukee, bro, because there was a lot of turmoil today with Damian Lillard, man, and a lot of people did not expect this. I know I didn't. I can't speak for you, so you let us know if you did. But Damian Lillard got waived today by the Milwaukee Bucks, and the way that it's gonna work with that, he's gonna get paid out the next 5 years of $113 million contract that he still had with the Milwaukee Bucks. So he's gonna be on their cap space for the next 5 years. And they did all of this to get Miles Turner from the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers let Miles Turner go, and he signed with the Milwaukee Bucks 4 years, $107 million. And it's funny because the last 4 years, people thought that he was going to leave Indiana, and then this year they get to the NBA Finals. He's a big part of that on why they got there, and people are like, "Oh, he's going to say he's going to resign," and boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, he's going to the team that Indiana hates in the last 2-3 years, and it's hilarious to me. But with Dame, just to speak on Dame first, man. Were you surprised of what happened with Dame? How do you feel about him getting waived? Maybe give us where you think he's gonna go next. But this whole situation with Dame has been insane.
Yeah, it is crazy because I'm not surprised that he's off the team. I'm surprised that they went the route they went. So I've been hearing about Dame. Everyone's heard about Dame being moved for a while. I have a lot of like inside agent type friends that are constantly talking about him being traded, wanting to go elsewhere, different spots, and little subtle ways, nothing big and glaring. But I do think I don't know where his mindset is in terms of trying to win. I know he was great with Portland and just being there and just being whatever he could be and giving his best effort and not trying to ring hop or anything like that. So I do think Miami should be the team that looks at him the most. You got the money to make a move like that, especially on a guy who's already making, like you said, 20 plus mil a year elsewhere. So he doesn't have to, demand a huge contract. He could make some space. And that's a team that just lost Duncan Robinson, your boys. So another guy who can, shoot the ball. Obviously, he's a catch and shoot type player, but either way, I think that's a good spot for him overall. If you look at the rest of the teams that are kind of lingering for a player like that, like you're not going to go to Orlando, even though that could fit well. The money's just not there. On top of the fact it's kind of a crowded, ball handling situation. I think that's Miami is the best fit for him and for a team that's just looking to stay competitive and get back in the mix. I don't know why they didn't just try to move him and get rid of some of that money. I know it's a big contract, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that would have taken it, especially if you came in desperate and just undercut and went low with it. Like to pay 5 years to get this guy off your team, one of the better players in the past decade, is crazy to me. But hey, that is what it is. The Miles Turner thing, a little just like you, very surprised about that because he's kind of like the Jalen Brown, right? As a Celtics guy. Every year, Jalen Brown, Jalen Brown, Jalen Brown. Right. And then we get to the finals. Imagine if Jalen Brown was traded last year, like suddenly, like this past year, like that would have killed me. Right. So I'm very surprised, especially if he would bounce like the Knicks or something, like a rival team. Very surprised by the Miles Turner thing. A few days ago, if you would have been like, okay, well, Giannis is staying. That's what I'm hearing, whatever. Okay, cool. But how does Giannis and Miles Turner kind of clash? They're kind of in the same area in terms of where they like to create. I know Turner can catch and shoot on the three, but who's creating for them? Lopez is gone now, so yes, you lost a big, so you got another big that can step out and shoot if they're trying to replicate what they had and go younger. But it's an interesting thing. I think it's like an incomplete grade for Milwaukee. I think if they don't do something with these moves, like to follow up and really build the rest of the roster, it makes me say, oh, okay, that's why they did that. As of now, they would end up getting like a 4 grade. But I'll give them some room to see what happens. And hopefully Dame doesn't go to Miami because I can't have y'all competing again.
Just to stick with the Miles Turner thing right now. I think it's a good pickup for Milwaukee. I think, they at the center position, they get younger, they get faster, they get more effort when it comes to the center position because Brook Lopez, he wasn't giving that. He was shooting the 3 ball, yeah, but Miles Turner can shoot the 3 ball now too. Now you're getting a younger, in a sense, Brook Lopez that, grab more boards, shoot 3 ball, plays more intensity, is a great rim protector. Brook Lopez was a good rim protector, but he wasn't great. So I think, you let Brook Lopez go, you bring in Miles Turner, which is a guy that I've heard that Giannis has been trying to play with for a while now. But the problem to me is what about their guard play? They have no guard play, in my opinion, right now that is going to help Giannis and Miles Turner do anything. And even with their bench players, like Kevin Porter Jr. Declined to sign with them. He's still a free agent. Like I just don't see any guard play for Milwaukee right now, which is, in my opinion, a huge problem. Yeah, you do the Miles Turner thing to help try to please Giannis and try to stay, but like how you mentioned, what was the whole thing of just waiving Damian Lillard and now you got him in cap space for the next 5 years when you could easily try to trade him? And yeah, maybe you would have gotten lowballed, but you still would have had that contract. You still probably would have got one or two assets with maybe a pick or two in return. But now you don't really do anything. Now you just really gonna pay him for the next 5 years while he's gonna be on another team, because there are gonna be other teams that are gonna want him. Like how you mentioned, Miami is probably gonna want him, but there's other teams too. Maybe even Golden State. Imagine putting him with Steph Curry, like two great splash bros again in Golden State. Like, to me, it's very insane that it happened like that. That they're just gonna buy him out for $113 million while he's going to play on another team and get paid from another team. Like, yo, shout out to Dame, man, because you a finesse king. You a finesse king, my guy. Like, yo, he must be happy right now. A lot of people are like, yo, he must be pissed and whatever. I'm like, I don't know. To me, it seems good. He got his freedom. He got paid. And now he's going to go to whatever team that wants to grab him, a contender, and get paid even some more. He's going to get paid overtime if you really think about it.
Yeah. And he can afford to go. He can go anywhere because he doesn't have to take a big deal because he's already getting paid on a big deal. So it's insane what's going on for him. I know Giannis isn't too happy about that, but it sucks for Indiana though because you're losing Halliburton for the year. You got Turner gone. I know they're trying to kind of do the Celtic thing, save some money, rebuild. A year from now. So I get that, but sheesh.
Yeah, man. And just speaking on like how you mentioned, like for us, like, yeah, I would love to pick up Dame for sure. But he's got an Achilles. He's older. Our guard rotation right now is pretty deep, which is why we let Duncan Robinson go. And in return, we got Simeon. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the Italian dude that he was playing with the Pistons.
Yeah.
I don't really like his play as much. Yeah, he's a 3-point guy. He could shoot like Duncan Robinson. Obviously not as great, but I'm just saying like he could shoot the three ball. But we had to get rid of him because our guard play is so deep that we can't afford the rotational minutes. So we had to get rid of him. And obviously he's going to want more money, and another team's going to pay him more money. Tim Hardaway gets gone. Duncan Robinson comes in, and he's with Detroit. But for us, I mean, it would be dope to land Dame for sure. I think even on one leg, he's better than Terry Rozier on two legs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We got to see how that's going to play out to see how much money he wants as well. We don't have a lot of money to give, but like you mentioned, any team's going to want to pick up Dame, bro. So he's going to have options. And in my opinion, I think he should go to a contender. I think he should go to chase rings. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're already at the tail end of your career. You probably got 2-3 more years left in the tank. Like, go to a team that's going to try to get you to the promised land.
Yeah, for sure. Even if you went to Detroit or something like that and was beside Cade and try to help them out, he can do it for nothing. Like, no team with cap space is not an issue with him.
Yeah, no, definitely. So the last team here, guys, we're not gonna really get into all the NBA free agency. Like, there's a lot, so we're just going on the teams that have made like the most moves and the best moves, really. So I think the next team, for me, is the New York Knicks, right? And I like the fact that they're bringing in Jordan Clarkson. They're bringing in Yabusele, if that's how you pronounce his name, the French dude.
Yeah, former Celtic.
Yeah, former Celtic. That is right. So now they have a great 9-man rotations. But with those two signings right there, they haven't made any trades or anything else just as of yet. Obviously, it'll come down. But just with those two, what do you think about the Knicks right now?
I think it's a good fit. I'm not like it doesn't jump off the boat or anything for me. Like I'm not like whoa, but I think in the last year or two at Utah, Jordan Clarkson looked a little more mature. He does still take a lot of reckless threes and things like that, but on a team like that where you pretty much have a green light because there is nobody else on the perimeter, why not? Um, that is kind of the piece that they needed. Somebody who can be Brunson when Brunson's not on the court. Because when he was on the bench, yeah, they went through Cat a lot. And I will say, like in the regular season, but like in the playoffs, Cat did step up and he gets a lot of credit for that. He had a lot of clutch shots and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, once they got to a team like Indiana, it became okay, well, can you match our guard play? Can you match our pace? Can you run the speed that we're running all day, the tempo? No, because once Brunson's out, you're kind of slow. So, and I like Hart. Hart's a good player. He's a hustler, things like that. But he is much like you mentioned earlier. The way you view Michael Porter Jr., which I agree with, is the way I view Josh Hart. When things aren't falling for him on 3-point line, sometimes he gets a little lazy on the defense. Sometimes he's not getting those little offensive boards like he does at late games when shots are falling. So I'm not saying Clarkson replaces that, but I do think he can kind of be. You can play the same system when Brunson's on the bench when you have Clarkson there, which, he's not as great a passer, but it's still, you got a guard who can dribble, create, score, hit the three. And like you said, adding Yabusele gives him some more physicality, kind of like what Mitchell Robinson gives them, except for hopefully not as injured. But, it is a good move for the Knicks. Obviously, if Mike Brown is the coach, that's going to happen. Not sure, but they got to get that figured out. But they're not a team that needs a lot. So for what it is, those are good moves.
Yeah, for me, it was just what they really needed is more depth, right? And especially,
Yeah.
in today's NBA, you saw with the Indiana Pacers, you saw with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You got 6, 7, 8 deep that can run the floor, that can play defense. Most of them can shoot, not all of them. They can get some layups, some dunks. They could play make. They can play with each other. They have that team chemistry. You give the rest to the starters in the playoffs. You're trying to win 16 games to get to the promised land, to hold up the trophy. And it takes sometimes even more than that. You got to play more than that, but still, you got to have good legs. You got to be able to rest. And that was the number one thing I thought with the New York Knicks going into the playoffs, that they're not going to be able to rest as much. One, because their coach loves the whole system of like, yo, I'm only running 5, 6, maybe 7 in the playoffs. Everybody's gonna play 40 plus minutes and all this crap. But like, we need rest. There's a lot of fast paced offense going down in the NBA. You got to play both ways. You gotta be able to defend and be able to run the floor and score on the other end. And if you only got 5, 6 players that are doing that each and every night of every single game in the playoffs, by the time the Eastern Conference Finals comes around, the NBA Finals comes around, your team is gassed. So I think adding these 2 players, like you mentioned, Jordan Clarkson, can be that Jalen Brunson. I do agree with that. Obviously, he's not as good, guys, but he can be that guy. He play makes. He shoots the 3 a little bit better now. He can score at the rim. He's very confident in himself. And then Yabusele, if that's how you pronounce it.
That wasn't bad. I will roll with that one.
Yeah, we're roll with that. We're roll with that. I love his intensity. He's fighting for each and every rebound. He's playing in defense with the best of them. Like, he will not back down from anybody. And obviously, the New York Knicks are that type of team. So I think it's very well fitting for him. Now they got 7, 8, 9 guys that they can run in the rotation. Maybe they could go a little bit further than just the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and that's a guy that, if you remember, teams would try to guard Shaq back in the day. You foul out, foul out, foul out. Like, all these guys. You can't have your best guys fouling out. Like Jalen Brunson and Cat were picking up 3 fouls in the first, 20 minutes of the game, every single game in that playoffs. So, you need more guys like them that can play the same system and not say take fouls or anything like that. But a guy like Yabusele, he's going to pick up 4 or 5 hard-earned fouls. And if you lose them, no big deal because he's not critical to the offense. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing here that I wanted to speak on, there's a lot of controversy going on with LeBron James right now because he opted into $52.6 million for 1 year for this next season coming up. And there's conflicting sides. There's sides that they don't like the fact that he did that because it closes the cap space for the Lakers for them to try to get some free agents, or even try to do some sign-in trades, or just even doing some regular trades because the money's not there. And then the other side of it, that they're happy that he's getting his money. He's gonna make bank in this 1 year, 52 million, 53 if you really round it off in 1 year and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get your output on this.
Yeah, I'm never going to be upset when somebody's taking the money. This is their job, it's their career, it's what they're supposed to do. I guess the only annoyance with the LeBron thing is that he is typically vocal about the rosters and things like that of his team and wanting more, wanting more. But his contracts, when he takes these 1-2 year deals and with a second year option and opts out and then reconstructs and takes big money, kills the cap each year. So, not knocking him for taking money, never will. But it is going to put limitations on what you can get. That's why, when they put together some of those teams, they were working with all veteran minimums, stuff like that. But at the same time, it's not like he's playing 15 more years, right? Stack up your money, get in, get out. You're going to have money regardless. So I get it. You also have rings already. So it's not as if you have to win again. But I know there's that Jordan comparison. So maybe he feels that pressure. But as far as the Lakers go in particular, I know there's a lot of rumors about, well, is he going to get moved? Are the Lakers going to try to dump some cap space there, build around Luka? Is LeBron going back to Cleveland? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Like at the moment, though you hear about it more and more each day, it makes it feel like maybe. At the end of the day, I still think he ends up in LA. He stays there, and they try to find some way to build a little more. I'm not saying they add Dame, but there are guys out there that you can add in right now that other teams are looking to dump out, like the Miles Turner thing that came out of left field, right? Even though, yes, like you said, we've heard about him being traded 100,000 times, but that seems to be gone now that it's made it to the finals. But it wasn't. There are some other teams that have valuable players that teams would like to dump off and get rid of, and you can do a swap, not for LeBron, but in a situation where you can get a third team involved and build that roster up a little bit. It's not like I know they didn't seem like they were going a long way because Luka, they say he's out of shape and whatever, but I just think that Minnesota team in the first round was a bad matchup, and had it not been Minnesota, they could have gotten to maybe even the Western Conference Finals if they got the right matchups. And I felt the same way about a lot of those teams, even OKC. Had they got to certain matchups early, they could have been bounced, and we would have never had this whole thing overall. So the West is very balanced in a certain way, and it really is a luck of the draw on who you get and how that matches up. I don't think the Lakers are in as bad a situation as they make them out to be. If you're LeBron, get your money, do what you do. Whatever business move you make, you've taken pay cuts before, so if you want to make your money the past 5 years just on these deals, fine.
Yeah. When it comes to him opting in, I'm always gonna say get your money, man, for sure. Like, you're never gonna hear me say like, "Yo, like a player should have taken a pay cut for this and that, and whatever." No, like, sometimes the team's got to make it work the way they make it work, and sometimes the players got to look out for themselves. If it was me at this point, let's say 20, what it's gonna be his 22nd season, right? His 22nd season, 40 years old. He's going to turn 41 in the middle of the season. You got to make a decision on what you really want to do. Or do you really want to win, or do you just want to get paid and stack up this money? You're a billionaire, yes, but that doesn't mean anything. For the people that say, "Oh, he's already a billionaire. Why is he going to take that so much money and this and that?" No, there's a reason why he is a billionaire, because the rich stay rich. If you guys don't know that means that you're not rich. Like, that's what it is. But you got to make a decision on what you really want to do, right? So I feel like he's made the decision on, like, you know what? I felt like I've taken my type of pay cuts. There's always an opinion on what a pay cut really is, on how much money you really do take as a pay cut, and this and that, right? But we're talking about what, in my opinion, we're talking about when a pay cut happens is that if you're a player that can sign an extension every single time it comes around, but you don't and you take less money, that is a pay cut. I mean, I feel like we can agree on. So I feel like he's done it like 2, maybe 3, but 2 different times that he's signing for a contract with a team. And he's done it with the Lakers before, and they haven't really shown for it. They haven't really gotten the players for him that really need to move the needle, right? They have gotten good players for him, Not saying that they haven't done that, but the players that need to be put in the system to actually move the needle when it comes to defense, when it comes to hitting consistent jump shots, when he's passing it out and we're missing easy 3-pointers, missing easy mid ranges and stuff like that, right? So in his mind, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take all this money, right? And I'm gonna opt into it. And then if they really want to broaden the horizons, we'll say, for the Los Angeles Lakers, and they want to trade me out, cool. I'll fucking get traded out, whatever. It is what it is. But if not, I'm upping into this contract because I want to stay here with the Lakers. And you guys have shown me that you can't bring me players that are going to help get us to where we want. Then you know what? It is what it is. I'm taking this money. You guys got to do what you got to do on your end. Obviously, there's a lot of conflicting stuff on how people feel, and they got their own opinions and stuff like that. But I just feel like that's what's going on. I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm seeing it from the outside.
Yeah, because if you look on the other side of it, right? Let's say the money thing's the problem. The issue is not necessarily just the money; it's of how LeBron's pursued his career, right? Once he decided to go to Miami, he was in ring chase mode, and I get it. A lot of pressure to live up to that name and all those kind of things. So from that point on,
he took a big pay cut there. So did Dwayne Wade. So
yeah,
did Chris Bosh. But
so
they
they
all
can do
took
it.
huge
Right?
pay cuts there.
Yeah. Now, on top of that, now after that, he was in a situation where, he's not old, but he wanted to feel out, okay, well, what are we getting, right? Like if I keep going with these 5-year deals, whatever, and then stays on a supermax or something like that, I'll get more money long term because I'll be eligible for the overmax pay, right, from whatever team he stays on. But then he has to leverage, does he want to be at that team for all that time if he doesn't feel like they're winning? So he has to keep himself in a situation where he can constantly opt out and move around, but then that limits him in getting bigger money. But then the other side of that is, okay, well, fine, now you have the freedom to move each year in case you want to go somewhere else. But now your contract annually hits the cap at a bigger mark every single year. So teams don't have the space each season for 1 year that they have you, or 2 years perhaps, to build a team around you. So now the Lakers, of course, new ownership, they crazy money. You own the Dodgers and the Lakers, you have money. So are they willing to stay in the second apron and pay some crazy money to somebody else? I mean, I'm not saying, again, even if we mentioned Damian Lillard, not saying he's a good fit because you have Luka and blah, blah. But, and they don't need to put a lot of money in. But if they really were to go and say, okay, fine, we'll spend crazy. We'll go to whatever the hard cap is for us, which is probably second apron for that team. It's, are they willing to do that? Because they have brought in players for LeBron. They just, like you said, they don't have a lot of cap space to bring in super big players. They can only bring in an AD. They can bring in a Luka. They can give you a second superstar, but they don't have the money annually within 1 year or 2 years with those LeBron deals to bring in a third Jalen Brown type who's a star, but maybe not seen as a number one. Some people, whatever, but it's a tough spot for management and for LeBron because he's on a clock, but it's other teams aren't willing to give up everything the way Cleveland was willing to give up everything at one point to satisfy him because they're like, well, what are we going to do? Give up everything and then you're going to be gone in a year or two, right? It's like the Houston Rockets situation. They're giving up a lot, not too much, which they've played it really well in the middle to get KD, give up their franchise corner piece, which is Jalen Green at the time, even though he's not fully developed. You get KD, so you can argue it, even if it's just a year or two, and they had enough money elsewhere to build around that. If KD had the LeBron contract, it'd be a little tougher, So I hear both sides of it, but again, like you said, I don't care if I have $10 billion or if I have $100. It's nobody's turning down $20 million just to try to win. It's just if he's going to complain about not getting players while not turning down the money, then that's the conflict. But overall, I have no problem with him doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah. So just on that last thing that you said about when, because like I had mentioned, yes, they have brought in players. I'm gonna speak specifically just on the Lakers. They have brought in players for LeBron to do work with, but you tell me how you feel about this. But in my opinion, most of them have been mediocre players.
Sure, yeah, but I feel like that's due to the fact that you bring in a second star under standard contract for 5 years.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously now Luka, right? These guys have normal, standard, longer contracts. And then you
Yeah.
got LeBron taking smaller length 10-year deals, but with bigger cap hits. So now you kind of don't have too much space. You can't afford to bring in another big player until LeBron's contract extension. But then he signs for another 1 year, 2 year. So it's like, who are you going to bring? Right? Like it becomes kind of like the Lakers when they first did the AD trade, where it's like, well, they have 3 players on their contract. They're not going to have anybody else. But it's like, well, they're going to have to sign some veteran minimums, better minimum, you know? But as you get higher up now with all these new rules and the aprons and stuff like that, you're limited to how much you can spend on that in that little realm. Like you can't just spend like crazy veteran minimums like you could if you were under the cap. So it's weird timing with the negotiation. And not Jalen. Draymond Green mentioned that talking about the negotiations with the player, or the CBA and stuff like that, how the players are getting cheated again because as the money goes up in the league, the percentage share goes down for the players. Even though, yes, you do see bigger contracts for the better players, some of those smaller guys are kind of getting screwed out and stuff like that. But it creates these caps and these aprons create spots like this where you have one long contract and somebody under a short-term deal, you can't afford to build the rest of your team. Unless you're willing to go into super luxury tax, which none of these owners seem to do or want to do. Celtics just got sold. They don't want to do it. They're getting out of it. You know, Lakers, I don't know what they're going to do because they're just got sold. So we'll see if they're willing to spend.
Okay, so to me, it makes more sense now of listening to what you just said. So it initially goes back to the first thing I said when we first started talking about this. It's either you choose that you want to win, or you choose that you want the money. And
Yeah.
in this case, is just showing to us that Braun wants the money, and there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. I feel like like
No.
people should just be like, "Yo, you know what? He wants to get paid. He's 40 years old. Yes, he's a billionaire, but he wants to make more money for his kids, or for his kids, or his cousins, or his other family members, or his other friends, or whoever the hell. Maybe he wants to start up a whole other charity and put all that money into the charity. Who knows? It's his
Yeah.
money though. At the end of the day, we can't be getting upset because he wants to opt into a 1 year deal, $52.6 million, when a lot of people out there, and yes, if you're watching this, I'm speaking to you, a lot of people out there will choose to opt into this contract.
Yeah.
Let's be
For
real.
sure. For sure. Drew Holiday just said, or maybe he didn't say, but all the rumors are saying that he's pissed about the trade to Portland. He's not happy about going there. Blah 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 blah. He has the option. He can take the money that he is not going to get anywhere else at this point in his career and opt in and stick around in the Portland situation next year, or he can opt out and take way less money to play for a contender. So we're going to see if that guy takes the option. A guy who vocally said he's upset and doesn't want to be there, and a team that has no chance to win a title anytime soon, is like, okay, see, that's the point. Like, yeah, you're going to get on LeBron, you're going to, because he's the big name and so on and so forth and whatever. But if Drew Holiday opts in, are we going to complain? Because he literally just complained about not wanting to be there. And he knows he's not getting that kind of money anywhere else. So is he going to take the big money like we all would, or is he going to opt out and try to be a winner? I don't know. But
Mhm.
I wouldn't blame him for taking the money.
Yep. And another thing I just thought about right now, he's going to opt in this year. He's going to take all that money. Next year, he's going to be a free agent. And next year's free agency is insane. The free
Yeah.
agency pool for next year is insane. So what if he's like, you know what? I'm going to stay here. I'm going to chill. I'm going to vibe. I'm going to try to win, because I feel like he's always trying to win. I'm going to
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
win. I'm going to try to win. I'm going to get all this money next year. I'm going to talk to some of the fellas around the league and be like, yo, what's good? Where are we going? Because he's done it
Yeah.
before. He's done it before.
Yeah.
So who
And the
says he
league's
won't do it
super
again?
balanced. Yeah, the league's super balanced. It won't take like it was, 5 years ago where you need to get 2, 3 guys with you. Like
Mhm.
you had LeBron, I mean, obviously a year later or whatever. Let's just forget that. It stays what he is. If you had LeBron right now to Detroit, then you never know. You had LeBron right now to the Clippers. You never know. Like to any of these teams where if he decided a year from now to go, all right, I'll take a little less. Like suddenly he's the guy on a team that will be a true contender immediately. And
Yep.
there's nothing, the Knicks. I know the Knicks
Mhm.
to the Eastern Finals, but still, New Yorkers are tough. They're still kind of like, oh, typical Knicks. And it's like, man, you guys weren't even considered to go there. I mean, I thought they would go pretty far, but overall, like, most Knicks fans are just happy to be in the conversation. Like, imagine if LeBron's just like, yeah, I'll go there and takes them over the hump.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, I like to play in Madison Square Garden. Why not? Why not for a year or
Yeah.
two? Why not?"
Yeah, the legacy there to be the guy who brought the Knicks to the championship, like, and won it, like that's
It's crazy.
that's
Crazy.
like winning for the Cubs. Yeah,
Yeah, type stuff. But yeah, man, there's a lot of NBA free agency going on right now. It's gonna be happening for the rest of the summer. Maybe some more trades throughout from when the first regular season game goes on till the trade deadline. So we're gonna see a lot of stuff. But what's right on the corner, baby? NFL football, NFL football around the corner, baby. And the Miami
bad.
Dolphins. Miami Dolphins have been on a tear lately, man. Last week they did a great trade, or a few days ago, whenever it was, and then today they did another trade. So the one trade that I wanted to talk to you about was the one with Jalen Ramsey, man, and him getting traded out there to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and in return, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Obviously, Ramsey's a great corner. If you do watch NFL football, he's a Pro Bowl corner. He really changes defenses when it comes to the secondary position. Mitchell Fitzpatrick, not that much different. It's not a lot of differences there. Just with this trade, there was someone else involved in the trade in this, and actually, I'll just bring it up right now just to get your
Why not?
overall your
Yeah,
overall outlook on it. But they did trade tight end Juno Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers as well in this trade package, and it was what was it, a pick swap? I think on the same trade as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Miami gave up two players for one and a pick. Um, but just with this trade going down, man, and I know the big talk is Jalen Ramsey and Fitzpatrick here. With this trade going down, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in your division, how do you feel about this trade?
I understand it. I actually think Miami did a good job with the deal because Johnny Smith was somebody who's going to probably leave anyway. They've been trying to ship him to the Steelers just individually from all this for a little bit here. And obviously the Darren Waller stuff, right? Him coming out of retirement, maybe the rap game was too kind to him coming back to play. They're able to replace those two players, right? Minka Fitzpatrick is another great player as well. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is he's on the decline. I'm not saying he's a scrub, and like you said, he still changes teams because of his experience and his attitude and his just his aggression to the game overall. Especially a team like that when you're dealing with the Ravens, you're dealing with the Bengals, like teams that can throw the ball everywhere. You need whatever veteran presence you can get. Now, I will say, I think the other big piece of this that keeps me interested in it is, are the Steelers setting up financially? This is a very big. That was an NBA style trade. You don't get a lot of trades like that in the NFL for whatever reason, especially
Mhm.
with non-guaranteed money. A
Yeah,
lot. I don't
it's
get
usually just a player for player, or if not a player for like two picks. That's what.
assets. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm confused. I always kind of confused by that, seeing how you have the flexibility of the contracts with a lot of non-guaranteed money and stuff like that. Why you wouldn't do that more? But whatever. It does make me think: is this setting up for a JJ Watt move? Because JJ Watt,
AJ Watt or
he,
TJ Watt?
oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, TJ Watt.
No, I
TJ
just
Watt.
wanted. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. No, no, yeah, definitely. TJ Watt. TJ Watt's talking about, maybe he's not going to show up to camp. Maybe he's not going to do certain things because he wants a new deal, so on and so forth. Definitely deserving out of anybody in the league defensively. He's probably the most impactful defensive player in the league right now. When he plays, that team looks amazingly different. Very annoying. I wish he would not play there and go anywhere else other than the Ravens because he owns us and it kills me. But I'm worried about that for them. If you're a Steelers fan, is this like a way to, you're not really shedding cap space or anything like that, but are you trying to bring in guys on expiring deals at the end of their careers that are gonna soon be gone, save some money, get rid of him, redraft, and then not rebuild, but essentially retool your defense with TJ Watt on and that remaining money? Uh, if that's not a move, if you're a Steelers fan, you got to be concerned about the TJ Watt situation more than these things. But overall, I think it's good for Miami to get a step younger. in terms of trying to get rid of some of these longer deals and things like Jalen Ramsey. The Miami's not ready to win now, so hanging on to an older player is not worth it. But overall, it doesn't super move the needle for me in either direction.
Yeah, for the Dolphins, getting rid of Ramsey, bringing in Fitzpatrick. I like Fitzpatrick as a player. He's a true leader. He can play the safety position with the best of them, and obviously they don't have Javon Holland no more, so they needed a little replacement there. He's gonna get paired up with what was the Bills' other safety?
La 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 la.
Yeah, he
Not
was in the
White.
Bills, and he just played for the Dolphins this past season.
Yeah, not White, right? Who was
Oh,
that?
not White, not White. I think it was Jordan
Oh, Pryor.
Pryor. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Is it Pryor?
Jordan Pryor, right? Was he on the Dolphins? Or is he still there? Now I'm like out of NFL mode. My rosters
Yeah,
are
right,
lost.
right. Like,
Yeah,
been out of NFL for a minute. Um,
yeah,
his name will pop up, and I'll say it. But he's,
yeah.
he's gonna get matched up with him. It's gonna be a great free safety, strong safety look for sure. Their corner position is young. I think they need to learn a lot. Getting rid of Ramsey is probably um a hit when it comes to the IQ of knowing what defensive schemes or what offensive schemes, I'm sorry, that the offenses are going to be running, trying to anticipate a pass, trying to anticipate a play coming your way. I feel like the young players are going to have to learn that a little bit more. They're going to be obviously faster. They're going to hustle to the ball more agile. So I think going younger is the direction that the Miami Dolphins have been trying to do for the last few years, and obviously this season they're showing it a little bit more. They're getting into the identity. Um, I think it's going to be good for them getting rid of Ramsey there. But he wanted to play on a contending team. Of what I've been hearing, and it is very well known if you watch NFL football that Jalen Ramsey wants to win it each and every year. And like how you said, I don't think Miami's in the position right now to win. You got Baltimore, you got Kansas City, you got Houston, you got Cincinnati, you got the AFC is stacked. It's just stacked,
Yeah.
and Miami
Quarterback,
they they need to work on their offensive line. They need to work on their January type football because when the cold come around, it's like they go from being a top notch team in the NFL to a pee wee football team right around the corner. It's not something that you want to see a Miami Dolphins fan. Then bring in Darren Waller. It's another thing on what they want to do for their passing offense. Um, I feel like he can be a better blocker if he puts the effort in. But for him to just go, if you're telling me right now, is he going to be a great blocker for the Miami Dolphins? No, he is not. But he could potentially do so if he actually practices that because Miami loves to run the ball. So if you're a tight end that can block and then run out for a pass on a play action, which Tua loves to do, you can get a lot of targets just like Smith was doing, right? Obviously, they didn't want to pay Smith. They didn't want to give him the money that he wants. They like like how you mentioned earlier, and I was just saying earlier, they want to stay young. They don't want to pay a dude that's older in the older um, range a lot of money and keep him around. So I don't think I agree with you. I don't think it moves the needle for the Miami Dolphins. I think the Steelers are in win now mode, but again, the AFC is just so stacked. Aaron Rodgers is already literally he's saying that he's going to be on his last year. He probably won't play after this year. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to win. I do think that he wants to win, but he's not the young Aaron Rodgers no more. He's not running out each and every play. Next thing you know, throwing the ball because he got a defensive end or a linebacker coming at his face. Like it's going to be a little bit tougher for him. Yes, they have DK. Yes, they've made all these moves and stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to get them to where they want to be in the Super Bowl mode. AFC's way too
No,
stacked. Like this trade is just like, okay, cool. These teams are trying, but is it really going to get them to the promised
no. Yeah, exactly. I mean, as a Celtics fan, my two favorite moves. I mean, if you people that don't know, I'm also a Bengals fan. Odd comparison, those two teams together, but it is what it is. As my two favorite offseason moves so far, have been Anthony Simon's move, regardless if the Celtics flip him or not, just because of the surprise of adding a player like that, considering we've been in sell now mode and everybody knows that, and we were still able to get some value with that Drew Holiday thing. And Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers, because that is the biggest false hope dream that anybody could sell the Steelers ever, and I love it. Just like I said last year, when we're talking about this, that Russell Wilson is going to be the biggest false hope move for the Steelers last year, and I love that they have Wilson and Fields, because when they think they have two quarterbacks, they have no quarterbacks, and it's going to show at the end of the season. And it did, and I'm very glad about that. So I'm hoping the same thing again. Like I said, no ill will. I don't want to see him hurt. I don't want to say anything like that. But I hate Steelers, and I love the fact that they're so offensive building right now around the wrong person, while neglecting to pay TJ Watt, which is that's perfect. So I don't think it moves the needle either. It is win now mode. Jalen Ramsey, older guys, but veterans trying to get that together. But I don't think the defense was a problem in the first place. Jonnu Smith, not a bad piece overall. Like you said, bigger dude, can kind of catch and turn and make a catch. Not as fast as a team like Miami would like to work. They like to get the ball out quick, so I think Waller's a better fit. But he's not a great super blocker. Kind of like OJ Howard in Tampa Bay. Young, has the ability to be athletic and do stuff like that, but doesn't always pan out. But Waller's had some success, so we'll see. But either way, both these teams, the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Broncos, so much competition in it.
So many.
I can't wait for football.
Yeah, no, facts. But conspiracy theory that just popped up into my head, right?
Okay.
What if the Bengals are not trying to pay Henderson because they think that TJ Watt is going to want out of there and they're going to try to lure him to Cincinnati?
Okay, so that would be amazing. And I would probably just walk to my parents' house and hug them just for no reason. But because of the nature of cheapness of the Cincinnati Bengals, if Henderson is gone and we had cap space, it's more likely that we change beer vendors or something cheap like that than adding a great player in free agency. So
you really think so, though? TJ Watt. If he openly said on X, "Yo, I want to go to Cincinnati," you think Cincinnati wouldn't pay him?
I mean, if he's, I think the problem becomes there is the viewpoint of the Bengals at that point. Okay, so you have a player who's perceived as one of the biggest, most sacks in the league, who is right there. Now, I know, a lot of people don't keep up the baseball thing. Robinson Cano, New York Yankees second baseman, back in the day, great player, young, had great seasons, was up and coming, looked the part, should have gotten a new deal. But the Yankees were like, we don't want to give you as much as you're wanting. We're going to let you go. He goes to Seattle and gets big money there.
Yep.
And we bring in Jacoby Ellsbury, center field, from the Red Sox, mind you, and pay him more than what Cano was asking for. And Ellsbury misses 3 of the next 5 years. Doesn't even get to play. He's terrible. Does nothing for us. And it's no loyalty whatsoever to the player who was already great for you. And then you end up paying more to somebody else. So, and I know TJ Watt is not going to fold and be bad. I think he shows up. He's going to be great for the next 5-10 years. But I just don't see the Bengals betraying the loyalty to Hendrickson to sign a Steeler player who, I do think he's a much better player. And I love Hendrickson, but I think TJ Watt is the best defensive pick. If I had to take any player in the league,
he's top 2 and he ain't 2.
Correct. So, so in that sense, sure, I would take him, just be cold and heartless and deal with the fallout. But I don't think the Bengals would do that, especially when you got a guy like Burrow and the leadership and being outspoken about getting Hendrickson back and stuff like that, coupled with our extreme cheapness. Extreme cheapness. You had Chad Johnson living at our stadium for his first season or 2 in Cincinnati, and they're like, okay, I guess that's fine. Get this man a house or something.
Get him a condo downtown. Come on.
The Bengals are so cheap, and everyone says it. Every former Bengal player. Carson Palmer left. He said, I'd rather retire than play here again. Packman Jones said, nobody gets paid in the Bengals. Other players have seen it. We just didn't even sign our first-round pick. Not because of money necessarily, but because of clauses. I wish, bro.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, yeah, Brand. NFL football is around the corner. This year, first time ever, there's going to be a preseason game in July. So we're in
That's
July,
crazy.
baby.
Yeah,
30,
I saw
30 days.
that.
30 days from now, there's gonna be an NFL preseason game in July. I think that's the first time ever. That's pretty damn crazy for sure.
Who is that?
Got me
Chargers?
Chargers and it's a Hall of Fame
Broncos?
game. I don't remember. Maybe
Oh,
or
who
Raiders.
cares?
Yeah,
Lions?
this is
Who
preseason.
knows?
Just preseason.
Yeah, but still, get the
Yeah,
itch. Get the
football's
itch.
right there. Football's right there, baby. Fantasy football players. I know you guys are itching for it because we're itching for it too, baby. Again, NBA free agency still going on. Yeah, NFL is king, no matter what. At the end of the day. But us basketball fans, we're still excited for NBA basketball. We do love free agency. We do love the trades that are going on. But football is around the corner, and next thing you know, week 1 is here, and we're talking about which team are probably bombing down other teams. It's going to be great
I
to
can't
watch.
wait. And,
Yeah,
and and also NHL free agency also going on for all you hockey fans.
I
Mitch
I need
Marner
I,
getting a new
I
deal.
need to get into hockey because my Florida Panthers. Actually, I'm not going to say my because I don't watch it, but the Florida Panthers back-to-back champions, baby, and I got to get
And
into it because it's my city, baby, it's my city.
and you guys just resigned everybody.
Yeah,
So
and
everybody's back.
I've
You pulled
seen for
up.
like I don't know anything about hockey, right? So I don't know what the money and the contract. I don't know how it really looks like. I know the NBA, I know NFL, I know a little bit of baseball, but when it comes to hockey, I don't really know how the contracts and the money like really goes down, like what it is usual, like for the top players and for the mediocre players, whatever. But I've seen like 10-year contracts for like only like what 16 million or something like that. And then I've seen like 6-year contracts for like 30 million or something like that. I'm like, yo, what's up with
Yeah,
that?
I mean, you get deals in the hundreds and stuff like that, but yeah, these 10-year extended deals and stuff that's such a normal thing for NHL. But like I said, Panthers re-signed pretty much every single player. You guys are good to run it back again, and
Yep, that's what I've heard.
unfortunately, yeah, Rangers made some little moves. So I'm a little excited, but also a Rangers fan. Hockey weird, but that is what it is. So a lot
You're
of good
like
stuff.
me. Dog. You're like me. Dog. I'm a Miami Heat
Cowboys,
fan. I'm a Cowboys fan for football, and then for baseball, I'm a New York Yankees fan. Like
yeah, Yankees, Celtics, Rangers, Bengals. That's
it,
my
it,
teams.
to me, it's just because of like how I grew up. Really,
Me
like that.
too.
Like I
Me too.
watched the teams when I watched growing up. I watched the Dolphins too, and I do want the Dolphins to do good. I want to see the city happy. Like I imagine the parade that it would be for the Dolphins, like it would be freaking insane in Miami for sure. I want them to win, but every single year when I was a kid, they just disappointed everybody. So I just didn't want to get involved in the disappointment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I say I was lucky because I grew up a Yankees fan. My dad, big Yankees fan from the Bronx, all that. And they were, I grew up right around, right before the Derek Jeter. So that was like I got to grow up into that. So they were just, amazing.
They're
So I
hefty.
had so much. Yeah, and my uncles watched Rangers hockey. They had won a Stanley Cup in the '90s there, so I got to see that. I had wiggle room. Celtics. I'm from near Boston, so obviously Larry
Okay.
Bird, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I had some wiggle room with the Bengals. Like, they were terrible, but it was like, this is, seen a few of their games, met some of their players. Like, this is my underdog team. This is kind of fun. It wasn't that fun. Like,
I
over
mean,
the
you
course of
guys,
20
you
years.
guys were pretty decent with Andy Dalton. Carson
Yeah.
Palmer too, for sure. Carson
Yeah.
Palmer
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton. I felt like you guys were making the wild card round every single year for
Yeah. Like
the most
5 years
part.
in a row, we were bounced
Yeah,
right out of the first
every single
round
year you got bounced out.
every year. Damn.
I mean, bro,
Oh,
with
well.
football, man, with football,
I
it's
can't wait.
just like a lot of people want to talk about, and we'll do this quick so we could get out of here. But a lot of people like to talk about nowadays that they want the NBA dynasties to come back, right? With Adam Silver, it's been like 7 different champions. With the guy before, rest in peace, I forget his name.
Stern.
The
Stern. Take
commissioner,
it.
yeah, the commissioner before. There's only been in his 30-year span. There's only been like 6 champions. So it's like it's something like that. Like it
Yeah.
was a
Spurs,
crazy number.
Lakers,
Yeah,
Celtics,
yeah, it was
Detroit.
like a crazy number, and I'm just like, with the NFL, it's to me from what I've seen, it's always been dynasties like that. I don't feel like that's ever gonna change because it's just the culture. Obviously, you need defense to win championships. Nowadays, you need a quarterback and a crazy trio receivers to win championships. In my opinion, you need a running back. Other people might not think so, but you do need running back, and definitely, you need the guys in the trenches. The O line and D line, they need to be top dogs in the league. And I feel like there's only several teams throughout the league that can actually have all those elements together to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's such a copycat league now too. You used to have, just like in the NBA, like you had, this team plays at this pace. This is a low post team. These are a 3-point shooter team. Like you had that kind of variation amongst teams. And in NFL now, it's just like, what are you doing? That's working. We're doing that too. And like you can adjust on the fly. It's so easy. You don't have such unique teams anymore, that last for more than a season. So, you kind of lost those dynasties because whatever you did last year, we can do this year, and sure, you get a solid Tom Brady, you get a Mahomes, you get somebody like that in your quarterback role, and it separates you for 5-10 years, and you can always compete for a title. And if you can get 2 or 3, you're already a dynasty because you don't win a lot of Super Bowls like individually. But it always seems to be that quarterback that exists. Every 10 years, there's somebody who has that edge over everybody else. Brady, Mahomes. I don't know who next will be. Hopefully Burrow. But so far, yeah.
Archie Manning.
Let's hope not.
Oh, man. Bro, Charles, thank you again, my guy. Please let these people know where they can follow your social medias and listen to your stuff, dude.
Of course, man. At RealCLKid, RealCLKID. Pretty much every single tag, everywhere, social media. Website's the same as well. Great stuff. Love it. We also, discuss sports on my page. I'm a musician. I rap, produce, so I do a lot of that as well. I have a separate page for certain things. But overall, thanks for having me. Love doing this every week. It's good times. Just good chill atmosphere up there with my headphone, like you mentioned. Always some kind of issue with small headphones.
You see, that's why I don't like the earbuds.
Right up to you. But I can do, when I get to do this thing. What was that? As if I had something important going on. I accidentally just turned it off.
Guys, you know where you can follow me on X at GeorgeMike Perez, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at GMike Media _. The audio version of the podcast is available on all podcast platforms and the video version on YouTube. And if you guys are into sports gambling, I run a Telegram channel where we offer sports gambling slips to get everyone in the channel $20 to $50 to $100 daily winnings. So you're only paying $10 a month. And we have an affiliate program going on. So there's 2 different ways that you can make money. If you guys are interested, you'll see my social media accounts pop up. Just slide in my DM. We'll start a conversation and we'll get you on and popping. Charles, hopefully we got some more free agency stuff going on tonight, maybe even later on during the week. We could talk a little bit more about it next week. You balling tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow I'll be there for sure.
All right. I think I'll be there too. Last time, bro, hot as hell. It was hot as hell. Last week was crazy hot. I'm like, I should have gone and watched the NBA draft with this dude.
Yeah. I hear you.
She was hot. But yeah, man. But thank you again, my guy. And next week, we on again.
Yeah, good to go.
Peace.